Hook asterisk. Imagine your entire future, your entire life, being decided for you by your parents, without a single thought for your own heart. That's exactly what happened to me. They demanded I marry a man I barely knew for a business deal, but I chose love instead. What followed was a whirlwind of betrayal, family drama, and one incredibly defiant wedding photo. Main story asterisk. My name is Zara, and for almost 2 years, Logan has been my world. We met at Andre's monthly game night, those wonderfully chaotic evenings where everyone brings dollar store snacks and loses themselves in board games for hours. My parents, they're traditional. Not the sprawling estate, country club kind of traditional, but the gritty, working-class version where my dad works himself to the bone and my mom stretches every single dollar at the grocery store. Their mantra has always been family come first, which, in our house, usually just translated to, whatever dad says goes. Logan and I had been keeping our relationship pretty low-key around them. Not exactly hiding it, but definitely not shouting it from the rooftops. He'd come to a few family events, always bringing flowers for my mom that she'd aggressively display in the kitchen instead of the living room. He'd even try his best to talk sports with my dad, who usually just responded with a grunt. It was a dynamic. Then, yesterday happened. I showed up for our regular Sunday dinner, expecting the usual. Mom was making her famous pot roast, the one she somehow stretches to feed us all week. Dad was glued to the TV, and my sister, Vera, was surgically attached to her phone on the couch. But then I noticed extra places set at the table. A knot tightened in my stomach. Who else is coming? I asked Mom as I helped her with the salad. Oh, Warren and Dexter are joining us, she said, too casually. Warren is Dad's best friend from high school. They work together. His son, Dexter? I barely knew him, just that he was 27 and also worked at their company. Dinner started normally enough. Warren arrived with Dexter, who was wearing a button-up shirt so new it still had the creases from the store. My mom, meanwhile, kept serving Dexter the biggest pieces of meat, all while giving me these bizarre, meaningful looks. Vera, bless her heart, was kicking me under the table, her eyes wide as if to say, asterisk, you have no idea what's coming. Asterisk. And then it came. Between the pot roast and Mom's box mix brownies, Dad cleared his throat. Zara, Warren and I have been talking. That weird, cold dread seized my gut. You know the feeling, right? The one where you just know something terrible is about to crash down. Dexter here is ready to settle down. Warren boomed, practically beaming like he'd just announced a lottery win. And we thought, what better match than our two families coming together? I nearly choked on my water. What? I managed to gasp. It makes sense, my dad continued, not even looking at me. Warren and I are expanding the business. Dexter's going to take over his father's part eventually. You two would make a good match. I sat there, my fork suspended halfway to my mouth, the brownie I'd just eaten turning to sawdust. Dexter, poor guy, just stared at his plate, looking as uncomfortable as I felt. I'm dating Logan, I said, stating the obvious truth that everyone at that table already knew. My mom waved her hand dismissively. Oh, honey, that's just a young girl's fancy. We're talking about your future here. Your mother's right, Dad added, his voice firm. Logan's a nice enough kid, but he's not going anywhere. Dexter here has a real future in the business. I looked at Dexter, still captivated by his brownie, utterly silent. Warren was grinning like he'd just solved world hunger, and my parents were staring at me, expectantly. This is insane. I burst out, my voice shaking. I'm not marrying Dexter. I love Logan. Dad's face did that thing where it turns a shade of purple I only ever see when he's truly furious. This isn't about love, Zara. This is about family and future. As I was heading for the door, I heard his parting shot. You have until the end of the month to end things with that boy. We're announcing the engagement at Warren's birthday party. I didn't say anything else. I just grabbed my crossbody bag and fled. Logan was already waiting around the corner in his car. We'd planned a Walmart run after dinner. I got in, hands shaking, fumbling with my seatbelt. That was yesterday. Today, my phone has been absolutely blowing up. Messages from my mom, alternating between pleading for me to be reasonable and think about the family. Vera, my amazing sister, sent a string of WTF texts, followed by dire warnings that Dad was absolutely serious. Even my cousin Ophelia called, breathlessly asking if it was true. Logan and I stayed up late last night in his tiny studio apartment, just talking, trying to figure out what to do. We'd actually been planning to move in together next month when his lease was up. Nothing fancy, just a small 2-bedroom near his friend Andre. We'd been saving up, keeping it quiet. Now, I wondered if we needed to speed up those plans. I've muted most of my family on my phone, but I can still see the message count growing. The only one I've truly responded to is Vera, who's sworn not to tell anyone I'm staying with Logan tonight. I'm torn. I love my family, but this is completely insane, right? It's 2024, not 1825. Who even does arranged marriages anymore, especially over something as mundane as a business deal? I needed advice. Logan was being incredibly supportive, but he kept saying it was my decision to make. And I knew one thing for certain. I was not marrying Dexter, no matter what kind of future my dad thought it would give me. Midway subscribe line asterisk. By the way, if you're still reeling from that and you want to hear how this wild ride continued, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I promise, there are more unbelievable twists coming. Main story continued asterisk. 2 weeks later, the chaos had only intensified. I'm writing this from Logan's couch at 1 a.m., stress-eating dollar store cookies, trying to process how quickly everything spiraled out of control. Our water heater just broke, the landlord's ignoring our texts, so it felt like the perfect time to update you all while waiting for the kettle to heat water for a sink shower. The day after my last post, I waited until my parents were at work and snuck home to grab some essentials. I thought I'd be in and out, but Vera was home from community college, sick. Between shoving clothes into my duffel bag, she filled me in on everything. Turns out, this whole situation was way messier than I thought. The truth came out in agonizing pieces. Warren's business was in serious trouble. My dad had been stressed about money too, which explained the kitchen faucet that had been dripping for months. This arranged marriage wasn't some random traditional values thing. It was a desperate attempt to combine their businesses, to use my dad's solid contracts to keep Warren's company from sinking. Real romantic, right? Things got even more complicated when I found out my parents had already put down a non-refundable deposit on a wedding venue. They'd booked it for Warren's birthday party, but apparently signed it as an engagement celebration for me. My mom had been showing the contract to everyone, almost as proof that I couldn't back out now. The venue was some fancy converted barn that probably cost more than I made in 3 months. The next few days brought a constant stream of missed calls and increasingly emotional messages. My cousin Ophelia dropped by Logan's with some winter clothes she'd borrowed, confirming my mom had been calling everyone in the family, crying about how I was throwing my life away. The family gossip mill was working overtime. Apparently, Dexter still lived in his parents' basement and spent most of his time playing Fortnite. What a catch I was missing out on. Work wasn't much better. My manager, coincidentally, cut my hours right after my mom called the store, dramatically weeping about her troubled daughter. Now I was scrambling to pick up shift swaps, just to make rent. Logan was dealing with his own issues. His beloved, clunky car failed inspection, and the repairs would cost more than the car itself. Our living situation was challenging. Logan's studio apartment was definitely not meant for 2 people. We were constantly stepping over each other, and his downstairs neighbor kept complaining about extra noise to the landlord. My entire skincare routine currently lived on the bathroom sink because there was literally nowhere else to put it. Last night, I found my mascara in the kitchen cupboard next to the ramen noodles. That's the level of organization we were working with. The financial strain was getting real. Between reduced hours and unexpected expenses, who knew moving would require so many random purchases? We were both feeling the squeeze. I started selling clothes on Poshmark just to build up some savings. Logan was picking up odd jobs on TaskRabbit, but it was barely covering the basics. Rice and beans had become our closest friends. The situation hit a new low when I ran into my parents at Walmart while discount shopping. What followed was a scene straight out of a bad drama. Tears in the cereal aisle, accusations about family loyalty, and vague threats about Warren selling to some big corporation. We just grabbed our essentials and left, but not before Mom noticed the generic brand items in our cart and started crying harder about how I deserved better than this life. Today's fresh hell involved discovering that my parents had apparently been saving for my wedding since I was born. Mom sent photos of the wedding fund passbook, a not-so-subtle reminder of what I was throwing away. The guilt trip came with a side of childhood photos and a screenshot of current wedding venue prices. To make matters worse, our planned apartment fell through. The landlord decided to rent to his nephew instead. So, we were back to square one. Logan's lease expired in 2 weeks, and finding an affordable place was proving harder than expected. His friend Andre offered us his spare room temporarily, but accepting felt like admitting defeat, especially since Andre lives in his parents' garage conversion and his mom still does his laundry. Logan had been incredibly supportive, but I could tell this was wearing on him too. Yesterday, I found him staring at ramen packages with this defeated look that broke my heart a little. The extended family's involvement was the worst part. My phone was constantly buzzing with messages from relatives I barely saw, all experts on why I was making a huge mistake. Vera kept me updated on the home front. Apparently, Dad was now talking about writing me out of his will, which would be more threatening if there was anything to inherit. When I caught myself wavering, I'd look at Logan, maybe playing Wordle on his phone, or doing that thing where he hums while washing dishes, and I just knew I couldn't give in. We weren't some business merger, some collection of assets. This was our lives, even if, right now, those lives involved sharing a single bath towel because we forgot to grab mine during the Great Escape. For now, we were taking it day by day, apartment hunting during lunch breaks, blocking new numbers as they popped up, and trying to figure out our next move. At least we had each other, even if our current date nights consisted of comparing rental listings over microwave ramen. Then came the final straw, the thing that pushed us over the edge. My parents started sending out pre-engagement party invitations for that fancy barn venue they'd booked. Vera sent me a photo of the invitation. They'd even picked out my future married name. That was it. Logan and I had been talking about marriage anyway, especially since we'd been living together for the past few weeks. One night, while sharing a bowl of microwave mac and cheese and watching our neighbor's cat through the window, we've named her Princess, even though she's not ours. We just looked at each other and knew. We planned it for a random Tuesday, not because it was special, but because we both managed to get the day off work and the courthouse had an opening. Andre, Logan's friend, not my dad's, agreed to be our witness. I bought a simple white dress from Amazon that honestly looked better in the photos, and Logan wore his one good button-down shirt, the one without any wrinkles. The morning of everything that could go wrong did. The zipper on my dress got stuck. Logan's car made that weird noise again and wouldn't start. We had to take an Uber to the courthouse, splitting the fare 3 ways with Andre because, well, we were all broke. The driver kept asking why we were dressed up, and we just said we had a court appointment. Technically true, right? The ceremony itself took maybe 10 minutes. The clerk was eating her lunch while processing our paperwork, and there was a guy in the corner frantically filling out jury duty forms. Not exactly romantic, but we couldn't stop grinning like idiots. Andre took photos on his phone. Most of them are blurry, but there's one good one where Logan and I are just looking at each other and laughing because I almost dropped the $12 ring we got. We celebrated at the diner around the corner, splitting a plate of fries and a milkshake because that's what was left in our wedding budget. Andre insisted on paying for his own coffee, saying it was his wedding gift to us. The waitress gave us free pie when she found out we'd just gotten married, the first bit of wedding luck we'd had all day. Then came the hard part, telling people. We decided to do it through a simple Instagram post, just that one good photo Andre took, with a casual caption. So we did a thing. The first response was from Ophelia, just a string of crying laughing emojis. Then Vera called, simultaneously laughing and crying. She was happy for us, but worried about the fallout, which, well, she was right to be. My mom saw the post while at the grocery store. I know this because she called me from the parking lot, sobbing so hard the cart attendant asked if she needed help. She kept saying things about how she'd never be able to show her face at church again. How could I do this to the family? What about the venue deposit? Dad's reaction came through Vera. Apparently, he threw his phone across the room when he saw the post. Warren, his best friend, immediately drove over to their house. Dexter, surprisingly, actually liked our Instagram post and even commented, "Congratulations," which probably didn't help the situation. The extended family response was a mix of shocked Facebook messages, angry texts, and a few quiet congratulations. My cousin even tagged me in a TikTok about ungrateful children. Real mature. We were currently laying low in a $45 a night motel room because our apartment application was still processing and Logan's lease had ended yesterday. The room smelled like old cigarettes, and the Wi-Fi kept cutting out, but it was our first home as a married couple. We watched random YouTube videos on Logan's phone and ordered cheap takeout, making the best of it. The wedding venue even called. Turns out my parents tried to cancel my engagement party but still lost the deposit. They were apparently telling everyone I forced them to book it, which was a creative interpretation of events. Money was still tight. We were both picking up extra shifts when we could, and I was selling more stuff on Poshmark. The apartment we applied for wasn't fancy. It was a ground floor, one bedroom with a weird layout and no dishwasher, but it would be ours. The leasing office said they'd let us know by Friday. Vera was our main source of news from home. Mom had apparently redecorated my old room already, took down all my photos and everything. Dad was telling everyone at work that I was going through a phase. Warren's wife kept trying to arrange a family meeting to fix things. The strangest reaction, though, came from Dexter himself. He sent me a DM saying he was actually relieved because now he could finally tell his dad about his girlfriend. Apparently, they'd been dating for over a year, and she wasn't just a streamer, she was also a single mom. Warren would definitely not approve. Logan and I were taking it day by day. Sometimes I woke up panicking about everything we'd done, but then Logan would make me laugh by trying to cook ramen in our motel room's coffee maker, and I remembered why I chose this. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. Sometimes, the truth comes in the most unexpected ways. In my case, it came through a stack of water-damaged papers I found while helping Vera clean out our flooded basement after last week's storm. The basement incident happened when Vera called, absolutely panicking about water seeping in. Mom and Dad were at some church fundraiser. Logan and I drove over immediately to help save what we could. While moving boxes to higher ground, I found Dad's old filing cabinet had tipped over, papers everywhere, mostly soaked. As we were sorting through what could be saved, I found something interesting. Loan documents. Lots of them, all with Warren's signature and my dad as guarantor. The dates went back years, small loans at first, then bigger ones. The most recent was from just before this whole marriage mess started. Some had final notice stamps, others had payment schedules with missed check marks. It was like looking at a timeline of Warren's business slowly sinking into ruin. But here's where it got truly bizarre. Mixed in with the loan papers were printed out emails between Dad and some big development company. They were interested in buying both businesses, Dad's and Warren's, but only if they came as a package deal. The offer was actually decent enough to clear all the debts, and then some. The catch? They wanted proof of stable succession planning. Basically, they weren't buying unless they knew the businesses would stay together long term. And that's where Dexter and I came in. The perfect solution to show the businesses would be family-run for years to come. While we were still processing this, Vera found even more papers. Turns out, Warren had been hiding how bad things were from everyone, including his own wife. He'd mortgaged their house twice without telling her, and my dad had co-signed everything, probably thinking Warren would turn things around eventually. The real kicker? A draft of a contract, dated just before the whole marriage proposal thing. Warren had already started selling off equipment to cover payments. My dad was about to lose everything he'd built up over 20 years because he trusted his best friend. I took photos of everything before the water could destroy them completely and sent them to Dexter too. He deserved to know. His response was just, well, that explains the rush. Apparently, his dad had been pushing him to settle down for months, even tried to break him up with his girlfriend. The next day, Ophelia came over to our apartment, bringing housewarming ramen because that's our thing now. She had more tea. Warren's wife found out about the second mortgage and had moved in with her sister. Dexter finally told everyone about his girlfriend and her kid and moved in with them. Warren was staying with his brother, supposedly to give his wife space, but probably because she changed the locks. Dad still wouldn't talk to me directly, but he'd been asking Vera weird questions about my new place, if I was eating enough, that kind of thing. Mom switched from angry Facebook posts to sharing missing my daughter memes, which, honestly, felt like progress. Yesterday, I even got a text from Warren. Just 2 words. I'm sorry. I haven't responded yet. Not sure if I will. Logan has been absolutely amazing through all this. He doesn't say much about it, just holds me when I need it and makes terrible jokes when I get too serious. Last night, he tried to lighten the mood by suggesting we could start our own business, but like something simple. Maybe selling those little hats for cats online? We're doing okay. The apartment's slowly coming together. We found a real bed frame on Facebook Marketplace yesterday. Goodbye, air mattress. Our upstairs neighbor's kid practices trumpet at 7 a.m. every day, but we're getting used to it. I'm picking up extra shifts at work, and Logan started doing food delivery on weekends. It's not glamorous, but the bills are getting paid. Vera says Dad's been in his garage a lot lately, probably trying to figure out what to do next. The development company pulled their offer when the merger fell through. She overheard Mom telling her friend on the phone that they might have to sell the house, the one they've lived in since before I was born. Part of me feels guilty, even though I know none of this is really my fault. Another part is still so angry that they tried to use my life to fix their business problems. Mostly, I'm just tired of the whole thing. Ending asterisk. I wasn't planning on posting again, but I just had the most surreal Thanksgiving experience, and I thought you all might want to know how things turned out after the whole arranged marriage drama. First off, Logan and I are still in our tiny apartment. We finally got a real bed frame. Goodbye, air mattress. And the neighbor kid has mercifully moved on from trumpet to drums. Progress. The upside is we found out our other neighbor works at a furniture outlet, so we got a slightly damaged couch for practically nothing. It has a weird stain that kind of looks like Danny DeVito if you squint, but it's comfortable. The biggest change happened about 2 months ago. Mom started sending these weird thinking of you texts, usually late at night when she was watching those crying videos on Facebook. Then, she asked if we could meet for coffee. I agreed, mostly because I was tired of dodging her at the grocery store. We met at that same diner where Logan and I had our wedding reception. She cried into her coffee. I awkwardly stirred my tea. And somehow, we ended up having an actual conversation. Turns out, Dad's business survived, barely. They had to downsize, sell some equipment, and move to a smaller office, but they're managing. Warren's company wasn't so lucky. Speaking of Warren, he and his wife are officially separated. She got the house in the end. Remember those secret mortgages? He's still living with his brother, who apparently has started charging him rent. Dexter's doing surprisingly well. He moved in with his girlfriend and her kid, started streaming on Twitch himself, and actually makes decent money doing it. His mom told my mom he seems happier than he's been in years. He and Logan even game together sometimes, which is weird but kind of nice. Dad took longer to come around. The breakthrough came when our car broke down again. Seriously, this thing is held together by hope and duct tape at this point. Logan was trying to fix it in the apartment parking lot when Dad just showed up. Vera had mentioned it to Mom, who mentioned it to Dad, and well, he didn't say much. He just started helping with the car. Now they have this weird thing where they text each other car maintenance videos. Dad still barely talks to me directly, but he'll send Logan links to auto parts on sale. Baby steps, I guess. Thanksgiving was the real test. Mom had been hinting for weeks that we should come. I was hesitant, but Logan pointed out that free food is free food. We're still on a tight budget, so we went. It was awkward. So awkward. Aunt Alice kept making pointed comments about unconventional life choices. Uncle Bob pretended we weren't there. But Vera and Ophelia ran interference like champs. And Mom actually put our wedding photo on the mantle, right next to that horrible school picture of me from 7th grade with the braces and butterfly clips. The surprise guest was Warren's ex-wife. Apparently, she and Mom are still friends. She brought this amazing sweet potato casserole and spent most of dinner telling everyone about her journey of self-discovery and her new hobby. Dad looked like he wanted to disappear into his mashed potatoes. The real highlight was when cousin Andre, not Logan's friend Andre, keep up, announced his engagement. Everyone immediately started planning this huge wedding, talking about venues and flowers and whatnot. Mom caught my eye across the table and actually winked. Progress. Our apartment is still small, but we've made it home. The ring finally turned my finger green, but I kind of like it. Matches our aesthetic. Logan's car is still making that noise, but we're saving up for a new one, slowly, very slowly. Work is work. Nothing exciting, but we're both getting by. Logan started taking some online courses in computer stuff. I'm thinking about it too, but for now, I'm just trying to pick up extra shifts when I can. Vera comes over a lot, usually with food from Mom. I think she's Mom's spy sometimes, reporting back about whether our apartment is clean or if we're eating vegetables, but she also brings gossip about Warren and Dexter. His girlfriend's kid now calls him Papa D. Call to action, asterisk. It's been a crazy journey, and honestly, I wouldn't trade it for anything. But it makes me wonder, what would you have done in my place? Have you ever had to choose between your family's expectations and your own happiness? Tell me what you think in the comments below. I really want to know.